You are a multidimensional being. You have powers beyond your imagination and beyond what you can understand in this material world. This is also beyond my understanding, but we are divine beings. And in this episode of the Intuitive Move, we're going to explore how we can access these powers, how we can access our intuition to make our lives easier. We all know how hard it is to keep up with this material world. We go to work, we come back, we are tired, we wait for the weekend and then to have a life with our families. Then we think that's not enough. And then on Monday we say, "Oh, how was your weekend?" Not long enough. So we know how hard it is, the reality. However, we are here. We don't have any other option. So we might as well have fun. In this episode, I'm going to explain a little more from my experience how I was able to access my intuition. And so the first step for me was identifying that I wasn't meant to live in my hometown forever. So at some point in my life, I was lucky enough to go on a trip to Europe. And in that Europe, something activated inside me, and I realized that I wanted to keep traveling. I wanted to live in another country other than Argentina. So then I went back home after that trip and I started to plan the next trip straight away. This trip from Argentina to Australia was basically moving to the other side of the world. And I did it not only once, but twice. I did it again. Once in Australia, 3 years after, I moved to the other side of Australia. So I left my life twice. And I can tell you with certainty that the first step to access your intuition is to get out of your survival mode. So I identified myself. I didn't have all the answers while I was in Argentina. I was very young and I didn't have all the answers, and no one should have the answers. So we first find what excites us and we find our projects. We find what we want to do, but we don't necessarily need to know everything. But one thing I knew is that my needs were not met, like basic survival needs. I found that my job at the time wasn't giving me what I was looking for in my life to be, prosperous and happy and not worried about money every single month. So I found that and I realized, okay, I can fix that. I'll move to another country where I can have more money. Basically, that was my thinking around moving to Australia. So I moved to Australia, then my survival needs were met. So I was no longer in the survival mode. I found myself with mental space. That's when slowly, it wasn't straight away, it took me a few years. I came to Australia and I started exploring. I started to get to know myself because, as you know, when you move to another country, you find another version of you developing. You are basically being reborn. So you died and reborn. And that was very exciting, interesting. While I was getting to know myself, I was at the same time making friends, finding myself, in relationships and growing. And that really excited me a lot. So once I went out of this, wave of chaos, let's say, I found like a lot of peace. But this peace comes after, for example, um, when you achieve a big goal. For example, my big goal was to get long-term visa in Australia. After this was a key moment for me when I achieved this big goal, I I found myself, what do I do now? I don't have direction, and that's very normal after achieving big goals. And go you, if you're in that stage, that means first that you achieved a goal, and secondly, exciting times. You get to choose what your next adventure, what your next goal is. So I know it's not fun when you're in that moment, but it's a good thing. A little bit of chaos to redefine your life direction. Everything to say that once you get away, we get out of our survival mode, we start thinking on a growing mindset that it gets developed within ourselves. We get a growing mindset, and that's when we find that our nervous system it gets regulated, and we are able to access this power that's been there always, but we could not access because there were barriers between the power and how to get into it and how to use it. Maybe there is a shortcut for you. I really hope that there is a shortcut. And in fact, I want to mention that you don't need to move to the woods in order for you to access your intuition. You don't need to move to the other side of the world. Please, I really hope that you don't need to do all these complicated things. However, sometimes is what your higher self or your higher intelligence sends you messages, and that's what you decide to do. So go for it. You receive messages or you make decisions based on whatever you want, and that's completely fine. You have free will. It's your life. You make the choice. So you don't need to move to the woods, but you do need to do a little bit of inner work. So once you find yourself in this state of self-regulation, which, by the way, it doesn't need to be 24 hours every single day. It can be maybe half an hour after work or even before starting your day. It can be half an hour of, just sitting with yourself. You don't need to close your eyes if you don't like it. You don't need to meditate officially with the meditation, as they say. You just need to give the space in your day to connect with yourself and to be able to throw questions and wait for the answer. Maybe you had an idea come to your mind and we take it as it is. We never stop and think, oh, that must be a message from another realm. No, but just know that potentially you have beings that are trying to assist you in this journey, which is living in this earth. And so that thought that pop in your mind out of the blue, and suddenly it could hint you on a solution of a problem that you might have had. Think that that might be guidance from another realms, if you so believe. And if you're open to that, then you can train your body to translate energy, signals, wavelengths into physical sensations. It's kind of like calibrating an instrument before using it. So before using a certain machine, so you calibrate with a blank and you calibrate, you say, okay, this signal is equivalent to 5 milligrams per milliliter, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of, you draw the curve. So then the next time that you use the machine, you measure the signal and the machine translates into the composition, for example. We don't necessarily know where this intuition is coming from, but we just know it. We can call it gut feeling, we can call it instincts, whatever you want to call it. One thing that I would like to clarify is that we can receive guidance for sure. So once you are in this state of self-regulation, you are open to it, and you trust that you have an intuition, higher self, soul, whatever you want to call it, we can receive guidance. But there is only one condition, which is that guidance needs to help you and others for the better. So at least one person or one being needs to be benefited from this guidance. We cannot use this guidance to make something bad for the world. If you're planning on doing something wrong, then know that you will never receive guidance again. It doesn't work like that. Why? It's because so everything that we are speaking in this podcast, the intuition, this guidance, receiving messages from another realms, they are based on the frequency of love. So if the message doesn't come from love, or if you're planning on using this energy to make something bad, so that completely cancels the love, and it doesn't work because it simply doesn't have the love, which is the foundation of this method. To prove that you have already done this, I want to challenge you. So remember that time where you said, say that you had a mentor, someone that you looked up to a lot in life, in a certain area of your life. And they guided you in a really great way. You learned a lot from them and you used their advice to solve your problems or to sort your situation. Have you ever thought in a situation where they will normally help you? Have you ever thought, what would my mentor do in this situation? And then suddenly you knew what to do. So that's an example that you're accessing this higher intelligence not only from yourself, but for the collective. So you are accessing someone's higher intelligence, I assume with their permission because they were your mentors, and you found the answer right in your head. So see how I told you, you have already channeled higher intelligence, you have already channeled advice. You got it in your head, and it's not magic, it's just energy. We live in a world where people come and go, but they leave their footprint, they leave it, and we can access. And if you are open enough, you can throw your issue and then try to reframe it in a way to find the answer. So, the best way to tackle issues and problems and fears, say that you have fears around money, around financials. It's okay. You have fears around financials. What your intuition wants me to tell you is that the fact that you have fears around financials is because you need to pay attention to your financials. So basically it means that you haven't found a more loving way or a more suitable way to receive messages from your intuition. And yes, so I will need to clarify that messages from fears and anxiety, they don't normally come from the intuition. However, when the intuition doesn't get listened, it can use the other methods. So the methods that we normally associate with the ego, with the body, with the physical experience, which is bias and is not directly our intuition, not always. But sometimes our intuition brings us messages from other ways as well. So the fact is that you have fears, for example, around financials, and once you identify this message, you say, thank you so much for showing me this fear. Now you can reframe that message, that language, and instead of calling it fear around financials, you can reframe it as a project. So you can call it project to make more money or project to change my career to have a salary jump or project around starting a side business. So see how you received the message around fears around money, then you reframe it and you call it project. By doing so, we transform that negativity around fears, which doesn't attract good things and doesn't put you in a good mood, in a good state to sort that issue, to work on that. No one wants to work, under pressure, because that will put you in survival mode. We don't want that because we know that we thrive better in positivity. So after you reframe and you call it project to make more money or project to improve and grow my career and salary, that will make you more excited. That will not only put you in a positive mood, but also will give you mental space. You'll be able to use your energy much more efficiently, because by being in a positive state, you'll be able to have more energy to actually do the tasks that will get you, through that project. And at the same time, it will give you mental space for you to keep receiving help. Yes, so you don't need to just stop there. Oh, thank you so much. Intuition or whoever sends you that message around fears around money. No, don't stop there. Now that you reframed it in a positive language and you shifted it to a positive state, then you have that positive mindset. What's better to keep asking for guidance? So keep asking Okay, so how about you can ask questions? How about I work on this area in this industry? And then you can wait for the answer. See how you feel inside you. Remember, this is not, linear. You need to first trust. Secondly, you need to stay regulated as much as possible, but at least for half an hour a day. We don't need to be a Zen 24/7, but in order for us to receive messages from our intuition or higher intelligence in a positive, kind, and loving way, we need to be in a calm and regulated state. So don't stop there. Once you define your project, ask for guidance towards which direction, and also pay attention to synchronicities. So I remember when I first started in these, helping people around careers. That's how I started as a career coach, career consultant. I remember the first thing I tried to do, I did it finally, was a career change seminar. And I remember, so the first time I planned the whole seminar and I got like 20 people enrolled, which was exciting. When we went to the seminar, I had an issue with the place. The place messed up the dates, and the thing is, no one was there to open the door. So that was really embarrassing to me. And so what I did is I improvised something quickly and I took all the people that attended to this seminar. We went to a bar and we did, the networking side of it, and everyone had a lot of fun. When I see that, I think, okay, so maybe I take that as a sign. In the moment, I actually didn't realize. Maybe I didn't have to focus too much on the information. Maybe I had to focus on the community. So you can do and go through your life and see what's happening, and you can then try to find patterns and synchronicities, subliminal messages. Remember, try to leave some room to receive guidance from other places, because there is a lot of good things that want to help us. Everyone knows that it's hard to live. Life is hard, but we can find ways to make it easier. And the way that we are learning in this podcast is by accessing our intuition and finding the answer. Yes, you can train yourself to listen to your intuition in different ways. So maybe with time, you get to hear the voice of your intuition, or maybe with time, you are very quick in identifying patterns and listen to it. Because so now, coming back to my example of the seminar, I think I just realized that message now while doing this video. I actually didn't know what I was going to say. But I think that was a good example to show that the intuition was like, maybe not, don't focus too much on the seminar. You're like putting a lot of effort in the theory and in the information, and that's fine. But what you're trying to do, which is helping people change career and grow in their career, especially as immigrants, maybe what they need is more community and networking. And now it makes sense. But I took 4 years. I took 4 years to understand that. So with time, we can train ourselves to see these messages and understand what the intuition is trying to tell us. So the quicker we understand, the quicker we can apply the advice. So maybe now that I get that, maybe now I will focus more on community, which is actually, I'm doing that now. But now I'm seeing it. I should focus more on community, on networking, and not so much in information. So part of doing this podcast and part of doing it as a video podcast, which was very scary at the start, and it is still is, was to expose myself and see who else is in the same journey or in a similar journey than me, and see who else is already, in the stage of life where they already found and got out of the survival mode and have a lot of inner work and works through all their traumas. If you tell me that you don't have traumas, I don't believe you. We all have traumas from our parents, from our childhood, teenage years. From we have traumas from everywhere. And so hopefully you found the time to do your inner work and to try to heal your past, address it in some way to be able to build the present and a better future. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I truly did. I had a lot of epiphanies while doing this. And so this episode was all about you accessing your intuition. And what your intuition wants me to tell you is that you just need to relax and listen for guidance. You have the power, you have the knowledge. You don't need to buy books. You don't need to keep paying for sessions. They can help you, of course, to regulate as a temporary measure, but you should own your healing journey. You should own your life building. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you liked it, please let me know and tell me where you are in your journey. I would love to hear from you. Bye.